What's going on, guys? Welcome in to kick off the tip-off. Very special episode today, not only because of what we're going to be talking about and how we're going to be ranking these quarterbacks from the title, where you clicked in this video, but Noah and I super generous of everybody subscribing so far. And in typical kind of Mountaineer, just West Virginia native fashion, we want to give back to you guys, man. So we're going to be running a little bit of a giveaway here. We're shooting for 500 subscribers. We have 3 items that we're ready to raffle off. And no, without further ado, I know I'll have the pictures up in a clear image so these people can see. But what we will be raffling off is item number 1, a Zach Frazier in the gold and blue, current center, snapping the ball to the Aaron Rodgers now of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Awesome guy, and wish him a really successful upcoming season. Not only him, but the team in general. I know a lot of fans of Mountaineer football are actually fans of Pittsburgh Steelers, which is odd when you think about it from that angle. But, we understand it's closest to that. But second option, obviously getting into the tip-off portion of our channel, we've got the Bobby Huggins gold suit Hall of Fame signature there at the bottom. Not too bad. I know, Noah, you would like to have that. And then our last and final item, a lot of fans will love this one, I'm sure. A Major Harris Don Neyland picture. A guy that we're not going to talk about in today's video, which we'll get into here in a second, but an absolutely iconic photo. And a lot of people, when you think of West Virginia football, a lot of people think of Major Harris first, Noah, before, guys like we think of Pat White, Geno Smith, guys who we'll be talking about in today's video, which transitions us over into that phase, Noah. Let's talk about our top 6 quarterbacks that you and I have kind of went back and forth. We had some discussion. We had some, I don't want to say arguments, but just some debate about who we think in order from the year 2000 on are the top six quarterbacks to put on the gold and blue uniforms for the West Virginia Mountaineers, Noah. And before we do, we'll talk about the Major Harris situation real quick. Not really a situation, but you and I unfortunately weren't alive to watch him play, which absolutely sucks because, like I said, everything that we saw in terms of YouTube or past games, stuff like that, he was absolutely electric and so fun to watch. But it's hard and kind of disgraceful from us to rank him and put him in this ranking because we never got to see him play in person. So that's kind of where we're at. And we have one guy who's kind of borderline in that mix. So I don't know. If we were to rank him, Noah, I think it's fair to say he would be in our top 2 and probably may not be 2.
Yeah, if you just look statistically, like I said, everything we look at on him, on Major Harris, is statistic because we weren't able to watch him. All these other guys outside of one player, which I won't give the name of, we were actually been able to see with our eyes and watch a game in person at Milan Puskar Stadium. So it was easy to rank those guys. But like I said, it's unfair to try and rank him in this because we weren't able to watch him play and turn on football every Saturday and watch what was happening in Morgantown and or an away game. So it's just better off for our list to keep it 2000 and past 2000.
And last deal, I forgot to say it, so I'll say it right now before we officially start the list. To enter the giveaway, all you have to do is simply subscribe to the channel. It's as easy as that. Just click the button. And then actually, because some people have their subscriptions hidden, we cannot see who you are. Leave a comment down below who your favorite, not who you think is the best, but your favorite quarterback to ever play for West Virginia University. I feel like we'll see a lot of Major Harris, a lot of Pat White's, Geno Smith. So I'm interested to see, maybe throw out a random one, some of the guys we'll be talking about. So no, without further ado, man, from the years 2000 and on, number 6 could already cause a little bit of controversy. And I know it's somebody that you and I were like, do we give an edge to maybe this guy or this guy? But number 6, we're going to stick and pick with Garrett Greene, which is kind of weird to say, but it's like when you look at some of the other options, right? You had Clint Trickett, who outside of injuries, I think he definitely would have been number 6 on this list, but we have to play it as it is. And Clint Trickett had 2014 season, almost 3,300 yards, 18 to 10 touchdown to interception ratio, led us to that 7-6 record. And then another guy that we thought about there in the 6th spot was Jared Deggy, who in 2 seasons, first season 2,600 yards, second 3,000 yards, 6-4 season in 2020, 6-7 in 2021. But our reasoning for putting Garrett Greene at number 6, A, is the rushing upside, which I'll let you get into. And then B, we can't discredit that 2023 season that he had where we went 9-4 with the Duke's Mayo Bowl win.
Yeah, Gage, when you look at Garrett Greene, you have to look at rushing upside, especially when he had Neil Brown calling in plays most of the time. We seen the offense Neil Brown attempted to run and what he was able to draw up in some things. And I think Garrett Greene actually saved Neil Brown a lot of times, being able to use his legs, use his athleticism to get outside of the pocket and either continue plays and or use that as an asset into the run game. When you look at 13 TDs in 2023 and 6 TDs in 2024, that's damn near 20 TDs over 2 years with just his legs. You look at the rushing statistics: 772 yards in 2023, 751 yards in 2024. So both of those years, he was able to almost go for 800 yards on the ground, which is very impressive at the quarterback position. It's almost, when you look at it, what would Garrett Greene have been with Rich Rod at the helm? It's really a question that will always be asked, I think, in West Virginia history.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the years just didn't line up for it to happen. I think he would have been a great quarterback year one under Rich Rod to kind of propel the second tenure of his stint here with West Virginia. But yeah, no, you kind of mentioned it to me while we were discussing this. Something that doesn't get talked about a ton was, I think, especially this past year, we were trying to use Garrett Greene in a way where he's not meant to be used. He's not a pocket kind of accurate passing, like fit the needle, that sort of passer. That's not how he is. To have success for him, he needed to be schemed up, not perfectly, but he needed to be schemed up in a way where there was easy reads, one, and then you had, not a huge window to throw the ball, but you needed some room for error for a guy like Garrett Greene, where he's more so specialized with his legs in the rushing game. And that's kind of why we put him there in that sixth spot. And obviously that 2023 season only thing I'll say, hopefully last time I'll say it, the terrible Houston game where we should have had a 10-win season on top of that. Who knows? Maybe we're not playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, but, we can't discredit that season, and it is what it is. So, like we said, man, the other options that we considered there were obviously Deggy, Clint Trickett, and you kind of think about the other guys. We won't talk about this as we get to 5-1, but we kind of had a stretch there where it was kind of ugly in Morgantown. Austin Kendall, the starts of Jared Deggy's career, like we had a good stretch there where it wasn't very pretty. So Garrett Greene kind of came in, gave some stability, I guess you could say, in those years, and kind of flourished in that 2023 season before, obviously, the upsetting, disappointing year this past year. But Noah, number 5, man. Go ahead.
Looking at, just to get into that, like Clint Trickett is a guy who I think would have been a phenomenal quarterback in Morgantown if he was able to stay healthy. So this isn't like a jab at any of the guys that didn't make the list. It's more like, let's give the flowers to Garrett Greene and what he was able to do in his time. And another thing to point out with Garrett Greene is how loyal he was to Morgantown. JT Daniels comes in, takes the starting spot late into that 2022 season, I believe it was. And he sticks around, rides it out with Neil Brown, and actually puts up some good numbers in 2 years in Morgantown.
Yeah, I went through an offensive coordinator change with that as well. So you remember JT Daniels had his kind of coordinator that he knew come in. But rolling in, man, number 5, a guy that you mentioned, we didn't necessarily get to watch in person. Remember, I should say. We were there, but in diapers. Rasheed Marshall. So let's go back in time, okay? Rasheed Marshall threw for just roughly around 5,500 yards, ran for 2,000, Big East record for quarterbacks at the time, a total of 68 touchdowns. In 2004, he was the Big East Offensive Player of the Year and the ESAC Player of the Year. And really what it comes down to, Noah, is Rasheed Marshall doesn't necessarily get the flowers that he deserves because he was the person to crawl so Pat White could run in Rich Rod's offense that he, finally kind of established, I think. At West Virginia, we really saw on a national stage the success that he had with his offense that he had been building through his entire coaching career.
Yeah, it was kind of like proof in the pudding that when Rich Rod was able to do this at the Division II level, and I think Glenville State was WVAIC, which is like an NAI school for a little bit at Rich Rod's beginning tenure. When you look at what Rich Rod was able to do, he said, okay, I can bring this offense at the Division II level. Let's see if we can bring it to Division I and see what it's going to be able to do. And it's exactly what he thought it would do. Rasheed Marshall, when you look back, he was an electric player. It's a big play waiting to happen at all times. So that's kind of what Rich Rod thrived around, those guys who were able to use their legs, get outside of the pocket. And Rasheed Marshall was kind of like the proof in the pudding to establish and say, yes, this can be ran at the Division I level.
Yeah, and in a way, similar to how we're going to talk about Pat White, it's like these guys were so ahead of their time at the quarterback position. You think about even Major Harris too. Like I don't understand how or why West Virginia was kind of notorious for having quarterbacks of that play style at that school. But when you think of quarterbacks kind of in the older days of football, you think of pocket passing, what they would call stones in the pocket.
Marino,
they're just standing
Elway.
there. Yeah. They're there to stand in the pocket, deliver the ball, and at most times they're going to take a hit, like a really hard hit from an edge, defensive tackle, something like that. But for Rich Rod, and now it has eventually led to you want a mobile quarterback. We see guys drafted in the NFL all the time now, drafted probably 20 spots higher just because of their rushing upside, because we see what it looks like with Lamar, stuff like that.
If you get into like really looking into that, Jalen Milroe is a perfect example, a guy who didn't really prove much with his arm, but because of his upside with the leg ability, we'll go ahead and draft and take a shot at him. He could eventually turn into, because you can work on the arm, but what you can't do is get someone to run a 4.4 or 4.5. You can't make that happen, right?
Absolutely. You just heard Zach Alley talking about it with his defensive players in that 3 Guys Before the Game episode. So Rasheed Marshall, let's understand, right? 2002, they went 9-4. That was here I was born, which is crazy. 2003, 8-5. 2004, 8-4, and all that was obviously leading up to the Pat White era. So I think him at the 5 spot is kind of a perfect place to put him, right? Obviously at the bridge of 2000, and got to give props and credits to the people who have kind of built this up, right? Without him, who knows where we are now? Who knows about Pat White, Rich Rod? It's a butterfly effect, man, for sure. So Noah, it's tough for us to kind of sit here and talk about Rasheed Marshall. Like I said, it's similar to Major Harris. We didn't get to watch him a ton in person and remember, but we understand and recognize him as an important person in West Virginia football. But a guy that we do know really well and are excited to talk about, number 4, Skylar Howard. This might be personally my second favorite quarterback to play at West Virginia because of one reason. When you think of guys who are tough sons of bitches, right? You look that up in the dictionary, it literally pops up Skylar Howard.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was. Hard-nosed. Didn't care if he had to lower his shoulder at any point in time to get the first down. Skylar Howard, not only was he tough, he was a winner, Gage. He was a winner. Because when you look back at those rosters, yeah, we had some players, but Skylar Howard elevated players around him, and that's what people fail to understand. He was a true hard-nosed, hard-edged West Virginia football player.
Oh my gosh, man. And it's like when you go back and watch him and kind of remember his era there at West Virginia, he didn't necessarily do anything at a spectacular level, right? Hence as to why he wasn't an NFL quarterback or things like that, which isn't discrediting him in any way. He was a phenomenal player. It's just that different level. But I think it speaks more to the fact of how hard of a worker he was to put himself in an opportunity to kind of lead us to some really successful seasons, Noah. You're looking at Skylar Howard in that 2015 season, about 3,100 yards, 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. 2016, his last year as a senior, 3,300 yards, 26 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. One thing that I always do remember about him was he was a little bit of a gunslinger, man, which I don't mind. Double-digit interceptions in both of his full years there as a Mountaineer quarterback, but I don't care, right? It's nice sometimes to see you take a shot downfield. You're going to have balls where it's 50-50. And when you play the game of 50-50, it's going to come down with the defense sometimes. But he was super fun to watch. And like I said, 2016, we went 10-3, had that loss in the Russell Athletic Bowl, which is now the Pop-Tart Bowl. But actually, I think it just got changed again. So I have no idea who owns the rights to that bowl game now. But we lost to Miami that year in 2016. A 10-win season, man. You don't see those very often. Like we said about 2023, they're very, very hard to get. So you can't discredit what he did for Mountaineer Nation. And like I said, just tough. And he kind of embodied what Mountaineer, we keep saying hard edge, but before Rich Rod, it was just, I like to call it like a coal miner mentality or something like that. Blue collar, right? I guess that's the best way to put it. A hard-working mentality, and I think he's really a fan favorite. I don't think a lot of people have negative things to say about Skylar Howard.
Yeah, and the thing is that sucks is you're going to get Skylar Howard and you compare him to Will Grier and Geno Smith and Pat White. That's not what he was. That's not what he was. He was out there to win football games in any way, shape, or form. He wasn't like this really, really athletic guy, but also he was athletic at the same time. He didn't have the best arm, but he had a good enough arm to get the job done. So that's what Skylar Howard was. Like you said, you can't discredit a 10-win season at any time in college football.
Absolutely. And speaking of Will Grier, who you just talked about, he comes in our number 3 spot, Noah. And in my opinion, I actually haven't said this, so I'm interested to see how you take it. I think in the Dana Holgorsen era, outside of obviously the Geno Smith last year, the Big East, that sort of thing, this was Dana's best quarterback and best team, obviously, stats to back that up, wins, losses, that he had. And for good reason, he comes in at the number 3 spot. So share a little bit why we have him at the 3, Noah.
I mean, Will Grier statistically, if you look at what he was able to do with his arm, was absolutely phenomenal. People don't realize when Will Grier was in Morgantown, West Virginia was ranked 6th in the country at best during their season. Now, when you look at that 2018 season, 8-4, like I said, a 10-win season is very hard to come by. And the Big 12 was no pushover during that time as well. We still had Oklahoma, we had Texas, we had teams, we had games that when you look at the schedule, you're like, man, if we can stay in that game, we'll be happy. I mean, obviously we're always shooting for a win, but when you play powerhouses, you look at them and you say, man, if we can stay in that game, that means we're, kind of like a proven team in college football. In that 2018 season, Gage, if we don't drop a game to Iowa State, and if we don't drop the game to Oklahoma that we got kind of hosed on with the
and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a team that could have competed or been in the conversation for a national championship or definitely a New York Six Bowl.
Yeah, 100%. And you said Oklahoma too. People have to remember, you said it best, Texas, Oklahoma. That year with the bad call that we had, that was Kyler Murray in Milan Puskar Stadium, and I believe CeeDee Lamb as well. So some really talent, like SEC caliber
Hollywood
teams.
Brown. Was Hollywood Brown on that team?
Yeah, Hollywood Brown as well. So it's like those Oklahoma and Texas, those years in the Big 12, like leading up to where they departed for the SEC, they had, in my opinion, SEC caliber talent, if that makes sense. Like they were SEC ready teams, which is why it's no surprise their transition has been so easy, more so for Texas, not Oklahoma, but you get what I'm saying. Will Grier, you spoke to the statistics. I mean, one of the best pure passers that we saw come through West Virginia. I think it's more so accuracy than arm talent. I mean, he could throw the deep ball 100%, don't get me wrong, but his placement was unbelievable. And I would imagine as a wide receiver, he was an awesome, awesome guy to throw the football because it was like, all I have to do is just catch it. I don't have to worry about going out and making a spectacular catch. I know it's going to be right around my face, my chest. I don't have to do anything special. And I think, go ahead. You look like you got something to say.
I think,
go ahead.
like, this is a big thing with, like, even watching David Sills, like, knowing that Will Grier was going to give him the opportunity because he trusted him, right? And a lot of quarterbacks we like to see, even like you said with Skylar Howard, just give me a chance at the football. And that's what he was able to do. Speaking outside of that, just the iconic moments when we go to Texas, and this is kind of where this started at, Gage, where this started at, Will Grier started that, right? Like he does that in the end zone to win that game in overtime.
In quite possibly one of the best Mountaineer games in the last, however many years, 10 years. Oh, man, that's what I mean. When you have moments like that, it kind of propels you to the higher end of these rankings. And when you can back it up statistically the way that he does, yeah, I mean, it's important to note, too, that 2018 season, he finished 4th in Heisman voting. I remember everybody on Twitter, that was when they had the Twitter votes on ESPN and stuff, so everybody was tweeting it. But phenomenal player, Noah. I wish that the 2018 season, not that it was a bad by any means, but could have went better, and we could have saw him in a really big bowl game, like a national kind of New Year's Six Bowl, something like that. Like you mentioned, they ended up losing in the Camping World Bowl that year in 2018 with that record. So, yeah, man, it just kind of sour taste in my mouth because I feel like we definitely had more in the tank with that Will Grier. But another thing, too, those were kind of prime years where where we talk about defense, right? I mean, non-existent some of those years, man. It's just crazy. So, no, obviously the big two, and this is where you and I kind of sat down for like 30 minutes and went back and forth. Number 2, Geno Smith. My personal favorite era of West Virginia football. How hard, how hard is it to put him at number 2, knowing that there's a quarterback better than him at the 1 spot?
It's difficult because especially when we grew up, Gage, we're kind of towards the front end years of our lives watching West Virginia football with Pat White, which is a phenomenal way to start, your fandom of a team. But 2010, 2011, 2012, that's when we came of age to really start understanding football and watching Geno, looking at the records he was able to, and a lot of the records that he set still stand. They still stand at West Virginia. So it's very hard to look at Geno and put him at that number 2 spot. And I'll let you get into it statistically because I know you kind of have a little bit of a better argument, or not even argument, but just kind of like an opinion on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily do the participation trophy. Like, if it were up to me, I would have this ranked 1A, 1B in terms of Pat White, Geno Smith, but we don't do that. We're clear cut, straight to the point. He's number 2. In my eyes, Noah, right? People can say, like, Tavon Austin, all the yards and stuff that he did. If you take away all of the rushing, design, kind of sweep plays, everything like that, I need people to realize that no matter how good you are as a wide receiver, somebody has to be throwing you the ball. And that's why I look at, like, Geno Smith was able to not only support Tavon Austin in a season, where he ended up getting drafted top 10 in the NFL, he also supported Stedman Bailey. We know the video game numbers he put up against Baylor and just about every single one of those Big 12 teams. But to me, it was so crazy that we had national attention when when that group was there from the offensive side of the ball. The famous air raid, the pictures they did with the planes in the back, everything like that. It's actually our Twitter profile or header banner. But to me, it was just like, this is it, man. This was peak. Like, obviously, as you mentioned, Pat White, all those years, that's like prime time. Should have been, could have been, would have been, whatever you want to say, national championship game, stuff like that. But I appreciate Geno Smith so much and what he did for West Virginia football. We see the success that he's finally having now in the NFL, and it makes me so happy. I know it makes our fan base so happy. He always looking out for Mountaineer Nation. He's a huge advocate for us. Never anything negative to say. And he kind of embodies everything that we appreciate as fans, right? He's up there for me with, like, Miles McBride, Javon Carter on the basketball side of things. So statistically, I mean, we can sit here and spit the numbers at you. Everybody knows how good he was, right? 43, almost 4,400 yards in 2011, 4,200 yards in 2012, 31 touchdowns in that 2011 season, 42 in 2012. But the thing that I appreciate the most about him is how he stayed level-headed. He had a shitty situation with the Jets. He finally got his chance in the NFL. And this is a separate argument in a completely different league. He's probably a top 12 to 15 quarterback in the NFL, Noah, with PFF grades to back that up.
Yeah, what he's been able to do in the NFL, Gage, is absolutely phenomenal. Kind of revive his career. Obviously, we know even Mountaineer Nation, we see him get drafted by the Jets, and you're kind of like hanging your head like, man, is this going to be a good fit for him? Goes out to Seattle, revives his career, and now you're looking, he just signed for a lot of money. When you're looking at these NIL deals, those type of things, Geno Smith could be a huge contributor to what West Virginia or what the Mountaineers are coming to see in the future. He's kind of up there with Pat McAfee in the sense of, like, advocating for Morgantown. Even his cousin, Jeremiah Smith, he always joked about getting him to come to West Virginia in a sense.
Wouldn't that have been a nasty receiver room with Jeremiah Smith and then Chris Henry's son? Or
Yeah. Chris Henry Jr.
I couldn't remember if it was if he was Chris Henry Jr. if he had a separate name, but yeah, that would have been disgusting. But like, those guys don't fit in the Rich Rod system now. It's just, I don't know. It's a fun what if game, I suppose. But yeah, last thing I'll say about Geno before we go into the undisputed number 1. 2010 was the last year of Bill Stewart. We went 9-4 in Geno's first year as like a starting quarterback. That year, 2,800 passing yards, and then obviously Dana came in the last year of the Big East in 2011, where we went 10-3, and Dana kind of saw what he had with Geno. And then obviously 2012, 7-6, our first year of the Big 12. And that's kind of that. So, no, without further ado, man, this should be no shock to anybody. This is the obvious face on Mount Rushmore of West Virginia athletics players. Number 1, Pat White. who is now back in a different role trying to help out West Virginia football for this year and following. What is there to say, man? I mean, this guy was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson existed. It sucks in a way that both you and I were too young to kind of appreciate his time. Like when we went to those games at kids, we were more so worried about seeing all of our friends, and then we remember watching the games and stuff like that. But if I could go back in time, man, I would love to be able to sit down in that stadium and watch him play, because holy smokes, the only word to describe this guy was electric. That's it. I can't think of any other way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, just to see him stick the ball in the running back's belly, pull it, and go 80 yards, like that is all I want to see. Kind of like rewind into it. You even watching back whenever he gets put into the Louisville game, kind of his first run in Morgantown, like where we started to see like, oh, like this guy's for real. Just phenomenal what he was able to do. People literally talk about him because he was a video game cheat code whenever it came out. Like It was just exciting to play with him. We can look at all the numbers we want to. Only quarterback in West Virginia history, and it might be actually all history, to win all 4 bowl games in his collegiate career. It was 4-0 in bowl games.
Yeah. Heisman, he finished 6th in 2007, 7th in 2008. The 2007 season, Rich Rod departed during that, and that's where we kind of transitioned into the next, which was Bill Stewart, I believe, correct?
Correct.
And I would say I should know that. People crucify me if I don't know that. But yeah, I mean, statistically, passing wise, like it's not going to blow you away, but this is somebody where it's like you had to be there to experience it. The rushing numbers obviously stand out, over 1,000 yards in his 2006-2007 season. But the number of the rushing side of things that sticks out to me is his yards per attempt at 7.4 in 2006. In 2007, it was 6.8. So we're talking about a guy where, statistically every carry, he was almost guaranteeing you a first down. That's how good he was. I mean, it's undisputed. We went back and forth, me advocating for Geno more than you. But, yeah, I mean, the truth is right in front of you at times. Records speak for themselves. 2005, 11-1, 2006, 11-2, 2007, 11-2. And that's kind of where everybody's reminiscing and hoping to get back to those days.
Watching him, if you have time in your free time, there's a YouTube video out. It's like, I don't know, it's like West Virginia Sports Classics or something. There is a game. It's not a game. It is the game. West Virginia plays Georgia in the Tostitos Bowl, I believe, or the Fiesta Bowl, or that might be the same bowl, not sure. And they come out, him and Steve Slayton come out and just put it to Georgia. And that's when I started to realize that he was him before there was a him, dude. He was serious. He was everything that you wanted in a quarterback, or a dynamic running quarterback. And like I said, he was able to get it done with his arm. Not that it was flashy, but he hit guys. He was accurate when he threw the football.
Yeah, and this is one of the guys that we talk about where they're before their time, even more before his time than Rasheed, or Rasheed Walker was the one who we were talking about, but the mobile style of quarterback. And we saw when he went to the NFL, he was misused, right? They didn't know how to use him as a quarterback, and nobody knew, because it's such a different play style that we're seeing now from the quarterback position in football. And obviously the brutal concussion that happened. And, we kind of just, it's a what if story as far as NFL. If he would have went to the right situation, we could be talking about a guy who could have had a 8 to 10 year career as a starting quarterback in the NFL, because that's just how good he was. So Noah, any final thoughts from you before we get a question of the day in? I just thought of one.
No, just kind of hit on Pat White just one more second. I was watching an interview a while back with Nick Saban. Nick Saban was actually recruiting him to LSU, I believe. This was before Nick Saban went to Bama. I believe so, or might have been his first start at Alabama. I'm not exactly sure. But he talks about recruiting Pat White to be a cornerback at Alabama or LSU, wherever he was. And he said the best thing that ever happened to him was Pat White saying no, he wanted to play quarterback at the level, and that's when Rich Rod got a hold of him.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's a good story. So,
yeah.
Question of the day, Noah. Here is where we kind of jump back into the modern day West Virginia football. Not Nico, not Jalen Henderson, who we've said before. Jalen Henderson can be classified as a Rich Rod quarterback, a recruit that he brought in. Nico stays. He's not part of the regimen that Rich Rod comes in now. Do you think in the next, we'll say 3 to 4 years, Rich Rod recruits and plays a quarterback that replaces somebody on this list from 1 to 6 that we just talked about?
Yeah, I believe so, and maybe not looking statistically as much as we see, but definitely for wins and losses. Because I'm a big guy. When you put a quarterback out there, outside of his job delivering the football, taking care of the football, making sure you're in the right formation, you're checking plays when you need to. Outside of all that, a big thing on this list for me, and it's why you saw Garrett Greene with that 10-win season definitely jump to 6 for me, is wins. You're going to see a lot more wins from Morgantown in these coming years. And that's going to be what propels some of these guys. Who knows how far they get up the list, and that depends how long they decide to stay with the ever-changing evolution of college football and how it is. But just you're going to see somebody jump up into this list because they're able to get, maybe a Big 12 championship, or they're able to get to that New York, first college football playoff berth. And you're going to see somebody jump up on this list.
100%, man, and I hope you're right. So, guys, we appreciate you watching, and just remember, for the giveaway, you have to be subscribing, one, obviously, and then leave a comment on this video, specifically your favorite quarterback, just so we can get you entered into the system and everything for the raffle. Like I said, some people have their settings set, which is no problem, the private subscriber, whatever it's called like that. So we need to be able to see kind of your name so we can get you entered. And that's it, man. We appreciate you. I think we're hovering right around 200 subscribers now. So right at 500, man, we'll hop right on it. 3 lucky people will be coming away with some merchandise, and hopefully more in the future. We'll have some stuff because we appreciate doing it, man.
You see these walls behind Gage and I. We got this memorabilia, I guess we'll call it, and it's so hard for us not to frame it and put it on these blank walls behind us. But we're gonna give that out to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we were talking before we started this. It's a work in progress now, so maybe even next time you see me, it'll be cleaned up. But guys, appreciate you watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to comment your favorite quarterback. We will see you in the next one.